Okay. So regarding the generating functions, let us look at one more example to solve a recurrence relation. So in here, you are given the following recurrence relation where an is equal to n into an minus 1 plus 2n for n greater than equal to 1, and a0 is 5, which is the initial condition. So once we have the recurrence relation, we proceed as follows, right? So as usual, summation over n x raised to n is equal to x times summation n greater than equal to 1, n into n minus 1 x raised to n minus 1. We just multiplied by x raised to n and taken one x outside, plus 2x times summation n into x raised to n minus 1. Okay, so we get this summation. Then because the first term is missing from the left side, you have a of x minus 5, right? A0 is 5. And then what we have? We have x times summation n greater than equal to 1, n into an minus 1 x raised to n minus 1. How do we write in terms of a of x? It's not clear. And the last time is that 2x by 1 minus x whole square, because we have summation n into x raised to n minus 1 is derivative of the geometric series. So we have 1 minus x whole square. So we get this. But now the question is that what do we do with this term? Right? What do we do with the middle term or the first term on the right side, where we are not able to write this in terms of a of x. And why is that? Well, that's because if you look at this recurrence relation says that an grows very fast. In fact, it says that an is n times an minus 1 plus 2n, right? Says that it grows faster than n factorial. So if n is growing, the sequence is growing faster than n factorial, then we cannot expect the series to converge, right, to any interval, right? Other than 0, it's not going to converge anywhere, right? The only point it converges is x equal to 0. So since it does not converge, we cannot expect to get get it as a function, and therefore we cannot convert the series to a function, and therefore we are not able to proceed, right? So in such a situation, what we can do is to apply a trick. Okay? So when one is growing, very fast, we are going to normalize the function by dividing throughout by a large number. So in this case, we see that what suffices is dividing by n factorial. So what we will do is that we are going to use a new type of generating function, which we call the exponential generating. So given a sequence, let's say fn n greater than or equal to 0, the formal power series f of x is equal to summation fn x raised to n by n factorial is called the exponential generating function of sequence fn. What we are actually doing here is to divide fn by n factorial so that the coefficient of x raised to n becomes small, right? It becomes small enough. And since fn is growing something close to n factorial, once you divide it as small number. And our hope is that this will allow for the function to converge. Now, if we want to recover fn, right? We don't want fn by n factorial, right? So therefore, if you want to find out fn, all you have to do is look for the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial in whatever series you are going to get. Right? So that is the idea. So let us look at a very basic example. So let us look at the constant sequence fn is equal to 1, right? We saw that in the ordinary generative function, the constant sequence, the corresponding generative function was the geometric, this was a geometric series, right? And then, you got the function 1 by 1 minus x. Now in this case, we divide throughout by n factorial, so we will get summation 1 into x raised to n by n factorial. And this is the series x raised to n by n factorial, which is e raised to x, if you remember calculus. Okay. So, this exponential range function of the constant function, constant series, constant sequence is the exponential function e raised to x, and that is the reason for the name exponential generating function. Okay. So, because for the constant sequence we get this. Now let us look at a more interesting example. Let us say the recurrence relation is given by a0 is equal to 1, the initial condition, and an plus 1 is equal to n plus 1 times an minus n plus 1 for n greater than 0. Now you are asked to find a closed formula for the sequence an. Or generative function for the sequence A, not for the sequence, the generative function of sequence A. Or generating function of sequence A. Now, so what is the solution? Well, we define the exponential generating function as a of x is equal to summation n into x raised to n by n factorial. Now, what we know is our recurrence relation. So we start with the recurrence relation, and since the left hand side is a n plus 1, we divide throughout by x raised to n plus 1 by n plus 1 factorial on all the terms. And then you take the sum over all n, right? So the standard technique. So summation n greater than 0, n plus 1 into x raised to n plus 1 by n plus 1 factorial is equal to summation. Now, because of the n plus 1 outside here, that gets cancelled with n plus 1 factorial. So you will get n into x raised to n plus 1 by n factorial minus summation 0 to infinity n minus 1 into x raised to n plus 1 by n factorial. Now here you can split because you have n by n factorial and then 1 by n factorial, we can split that. So what we are going to get is on the left hand side, n greater than 0, but you are looking from a n plus 1 onwards. So the first term is missing, so we'll have a of x minus the first term, which is 1. So a of x minus 1 is equal to, again, the routine procedure, x times a of x, you will get minus x square x raised to n minus 1 by n minus 1 factorial from the n minus, n by n factorial n minus factorial here. You take the x square outside. Plus, from the last time you have 1 by n factorial, and you take 1x outside, you will get x raised to n by n factorial. Now this we know, in the form that we know it is x e raised to x, we just saw. So you will get x times e raised to x here. Here you will get x square times e raised to x. And here you get x times a of x. So now it is easy. So a of x into 1 minus x, you take this outside to the left side. You will get is equal to 1 plus x e raised to x into 1 minus x. Simplifying. Okay. So therefore a of x is equal to this divided by 1 minus x. And so you will get 1 by 1 minus x plus x into e raised to x. So what is this? We know this is summation x raised to n, right? 1 by 1 minus x. And this is summation x raised to n plus 1 by n factorial, right? With the addition of x here. Now we want the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial in x. So what is the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial here? So we can only say x raised to n. So we have to put the n factorial. So you multiply and divide by n factorial. So you will get x raised to n by n factorial has n factorial as coefficient from the first time, right? So many times people forget what is written here is just x raised to n. So you need to look for the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial. So therefore, don't forget that you always multiply by, when you are looking at exponential generating function, multiply and divide by n factorial to make sure that you get the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial. here you have an n factorial, but it is for x raised to n plus 1, right? So for x raised to n, you have n minus 1 factorial. So multiplying by n factorial here, you will get an n addition terms, right? So you'll have n. So coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial a of x is n factorial plus n, and this is precisely our an. So we solve the recurrence relation, and that's it. Okay. So we found out an. So we look at one more example now. Let us say that an plus 1 is equal to 2 into n plus 1 into an plus n plus 1 factorial. Okay, where n is greater than equal to 0. With the initial condition that a0 is equal to 0. So find a formula for a. So as usual, we divide, we take a of x as summation a and x raised to n factorial. Always remember that you are looking at x raised to n by n factorial. Be the exponential generating function. Now again multiplying by x raised to n plus 1 n factorial, n plus 1 factorial on both sides, and summing over all n, you will get this. Right? This is direct. Now what you have on the left side is a of x minus the first term, which is 0. Therefore, a of 0 is equal to 2 times this is again a of x. Once you take the x outside, and then you have a summation x raised to n plus 1, which is 1 by 1 minus x. Right? So therefore, we have a of x is equal to x divided by 1 minus x into 1 minus 2x, right? Because you take the a of x outside here, right? So a of x into 1 minus 2x is equal to 1 by 1 minus x. So you will get 1 equal to x by sorry, this is x. Yeah, so this is x raised to n plus 1. So you will get x here. X by 1 minus. So you will get is equal to x by 1 minus x into 1 minus 2x. So what is this? Well, this is easy to work out. You can see that this is basically 1 by 1 minus 2x minus 1 by 1 minus x. And you know how to expand both of these functions to series. This is geometric series. So this is therefore summation 2 raised to n into x raised to n, and the other one is summation x raised to n. But we are looking at coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial. So we multiply by n factorial and divide. So from the first time you will get n factorial into 2 raised to n, and the second time you will get n factorial. So therefore n is equal to n factorial 2 raised to n minus 1. That's it. So you get the term an in a closed form. So so that is these are like very similar to the previous case of generative functions, ordinary generative function, except that you have to keep remembering that you are looking at coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial, and make sure that you don't forget that. Now let us look at the product of generative functions and what happens in this case, right? So by our definition, what is the product? Product of two series, let's say a of x is equal to summation a n x raised to n by n factorial, and b of x is equal to summation b n x raised to n by n factorial is a of x into b of x is equal to, by definition of the product, summation n greater than 0, summation let's say k equal to 0 to n, right? Ak by of course k factorial times b n minus k by n minus k factorial, and then you have x raised to n, right? Now what is this? Well, this I can write as summation n greater than 0, summation k is equal to 0 to n. I multiply by n factorial by k factorial into n minus k factorial, ak into bn minus k, and then x raised to n divided by factorial, right? Because we want to get in the form of exponential generating function. Now, what is this? This is basically summation n greater than or equal to 0, n choose k, right? N factorial by k factorial n minus k factorial. Again, summation k equal to 0 to n. N choose k into ak into b minus k, x raised to n by n factor, right? And this I can write this entire sum, right, within bracket as let's say Cn. Then I will get this is equal to summation n greater than 0, Cn into x raised to n factor. This I can write as p of x for some generating function, exponential generating function for some something, right? Now the question is that what is this something? So that something should be counting Cn, right? The sequence Cn. That sequence Cn is precisely summation n choose k ak into bn minus k. Now our question is how to make sense of this in terms of the combinatorics, right? So if you look at this term inside, one can try to see like we did in the case of the ordinary generating function. We can try to see what happens there. Okay? So here is the combinatorial meaning of the product of exponential generating functions. So let n and bn be the number of ways to build, let's say, two type of structures like A and B, right? Structure of type combinatorial structure A and combinatorial structure B on n element sets. Okay? So given an n element set and give a type of structure, let's say A, I will say that there is n is the number of ways to build this structure on this set, n element set. Now, let a of x and b of x be the exponential generating functions of a and b respectively. Now let's define Cn to be the number of ways, okay, to first choose a subset of 1 to n, right? Subset T of 1 to n, and then build a type A structure on this set, let's say T. As we select a subset of the set 1 to n and make a structure of type A on this set T. Then what you do is that you build a B structure on its complement, let's say n minus t. Okay. So if c of n is the exponential generating function, then c of x is equal to a of x into b of x. So what we do is that we take the set 1 to n, that is the set n element set that we are looking at. Then you choose a subset, arbitrary subset, let's say T. Now what you do is that you build a type A structure on T, right? Then you build type B structure on the complement of T, right? Which is set 1 to n minus T. Now if C of n is the exponential generating function, then C of x is A of x times B of x. That is the claim. So we can arbitrarily choose the subset, right? So if you look at this, the product here, A of x into B of x, what we were saying is that you are looking at summation n choose k a k b minus k, right? So this is what connects with the explanation, right? So n choose k is the number of ways to choose a k element subset, which can be any k, right? K ranging from 0 to n, and then once you select your subset, right, you build a type A structure on it, right? There is a k number of ways to do that. Then on the complement, you make a b n minus k because the cardinality is n minus k, right? Bn minus k, B type structure on the n minus k element side. So that is Bn minus k. And these are independent, right? We can make any structure here and any B type structure there. So therefore it is Ak into Bn minus k, right? For any of the k, n2k possible subsets, this is always the same, right? Because the cardinal, it only depends on the cardinality of the set that we are looking at, which is k. So therefore, this is the precisely number of ways to do this, and therefore, that is Cn, and therefore we get x raised to n factorial here, which makes sense when we convert into the combinatorial structure that we described here. Okay, so this is the meaning of the product of exponential generalized function. So an example, let's say that a group of let's say n students want to form 3 clubs. Okay, let's say club A, club B, and club C. Now there are some conditions. So we say that each student must be in exactly one club. So we don't want students to be in many clubs so that they waste their time. So we will say that every student can be in one club, and therefore everybody want to be in. So therefore we will say that everybody can be in exactly one of these clubs. Now the club A must have even number of members. That is the condition, one condition, right? It can be 0 also, right? There can be a club without anybody. So club A must have even number of members. Club B should have an odd number of members. And we say that club C needs a president. Now compute Dn, the total number of ways to do this. Okay, so Dn is the number of ways to do this. Let's say all these things together. So what is Dn? That is the question. So from from the previous observation, we can try to do this independently, right? So we can form the generative function for forming the type A, which is the A club, right? And the number of ways to form the club B and number of ways to form the club C, and then we can multiply them together because independently we can do this, and then we can see how this goes, right? So given given a set, let's say S of people, they can form a club, let's say A, if cardinality of S is even, right? Because we say that club A must have even number of people, right? So if the cardinality is not even, we cannot form a club, right? So therefore, in exactly one way, right? Because given a set, we want all of them to be in the club, that is in the club, right? There is no order or anything. So therefore, there is exactly one way. And if of course there is odd number of people, we cannot form a club with that people. So what is the generality function for an, which is a of x is summation a greater than equal to 0 x raised to 2n by 2n factorial, because odd numbers, whenever n is odd. Now this can be written as sum of two series, summation x raised to n by n factorial and summation minus 1 raised to n by x raised to n by n factorial, because these are the series that we already know, right? And by 2. So we can see that this is basically the odd terms cancel out and you get x raised to n by n factorial, and the 1 by 2 outside you get x raised to 2n by 2n factorial. Okay, now yeah, so what is this? So this is equal to e raised to x plus e raised to minus x by 2, right? Because what we have here is the e raised to x, and what we have here is e raised to minus x. So yeah, so this is so the odd terms cancel out, Yeah, so there is a yeah, so x raised to n, yeah, 2 times x raised to n by no 2n factorial will survive, so therefore you have to divide by 2. Right? That's why, yeah. So yes. Now similarly we can find out b of x, that is the odd degree terms. Therefore it will be e raised to x minus e raised to minus x by 2, and this you can verify. And c of x is something that we are already familiar, summation n greater than 0 n into x raised to n by n factorial. Okay, but because there is precisely n ways to select a precedent from n elements. So whatever is the set doesn't matter. We have to select one precedent in n possible. So therefore, sequence n, right? Now what is this? This is n into x raised to n by n factorial. So this is x raised to n by n minus 1 factorial, right? So this is, if you take one x outside, you will get summation x raised to n minus 1 by n minus 1 factorial, which if you remember is again e raised to x. So therefore I get x times e raised to x. So yeah. So what is d of x is now a of x into b of x into c of x, right? So therefore we get e raised to x plus e raised to minus x by 2, e raised to x minus e raised to x minus x by 2, and x times e raised to. So multiplying these three, we will be able to reduce it into this form: x into e raised to 3x minus e raised to minus x by 4. Now we have to convert it into the series form. Right? So this will be 1 by 4 taking outside. Summation 3 raised to n into x raised to n by n factorial times x. Right. Similarly, 1 by 4 summation minus 1 raised to n into x raised to n plus 1 by n factorial, taking the x inside. Now coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial is dn, right? Which is n factorial by 4 into 3 raised to. We want to find the coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial, right? So therefore this is 3 raised to n minus 1 by n minus 1 factorial, and this is minus 1 raised to n minus 1 by n minus 1 factorial. So therefore I get n by 4 into 3 raised to n minus 1 plus minus 1 whole raised to n for n greater than. So that's what dn is. Okay. Now composition of exponential generating function. Okay. So we saw in the case of ordinary generating function what was the composition. Now we want to see how does it make sense in the combinatorics of composition of exponential generating function. So let n be the number of ways to put type A structures on an n elements. So given an element set, the number of ways to put type A structures is n, where we assume A0 is to be 0. So we remember that we assume the similar thing in case of the ordinary generating function. So if you thought about why, because when we were substituting, right? If A0 is non-zero, then what happens is that you can make structures on the empty set, right? Non-empty structures on empty set. Then when you substitute, you will see that this term will keep on calling itself, and then you will get infinity. So you are not going to get a convergent functions. Therefore, we will assume that A0 is 0. We cannot make the type of structures that we are looking at on the empty set. Then B and B the same for type B structures, right? The number of ways to put type B structures on an element sets. We don't have to assume that B0 is 0. Now let Cn be the number of ways to partition the set 1 to n to non-empty blocks. Okay, so we are partitioning into blocks. Then build A structures on each of the blocks. Okay, so type A structures I make on each of the blocks. then build type B structures on the set of the blocks. So what we do is that we partition the set 1 to n to non-empty blocks. Then we build type A structures on each of the blocks, and then build type B structures on the set of these blocks. So if you remember, in the case of ordinary generated function, instead of partitioning the set 1 to n, we were partitioning the integer n. Right? If you think about these things, so there is a connection between what is happening. If you look at the integer partitions and the set partitions, right, connected with the the way the generative functions, ordinary generative functions and the exponential generative functions behave. These these have some connections, like the way we saw that the partitions of integers compared with the partitions of sets were basically if you look at the set of elements were indistinguishable, right? In the case of the 12-fold way, we saw that, like when we were when we were partitioning the sets where the elements of the set were indistinguishable, they were identical. Then we were getting the partition of integer, and otherwise we were getting the partition of the sets, right? So a similar kind of a connection is there between the generative functions also. And what happens there? We won't be seeing why this happens and all at this moment. At the end of the course, I have some, depending on the time, I will probably try to talk about, a little more on the generative functions. In fact, we will look at, something called the species of combinatorial structures, which is a category theoretical view of the type of objects that we are looking at, and the generative functions associated with it. So when we come to that, it will be much more clear why these connections are there, and how what are the kind of connections we have. For the time being, let us look at this. And so we are partitioning the set into non-empty blocks and building type A structures on each of the blocks, and then the collection of these objects we are putting in type B structure. So in this case, the claim is that the exponential generative function of C of x is the composition B of A of x. So we substitute for x with A of x in B. Okay. So a proof sketch. So suppose the set 1 to n be split into exactly k blocks. Okay? So we will do for each of the k's, right? Because we are anyway doing it in non-empty blocks, so we will say that there is exactly k blocks. And then Ck of x be the corresponding generative function for the composition in this particular case. If you are looking at only splitting into k blocks and not k minus 1 or k plus 1, etc., only exactly k, then for that the corresponding generative function for the composition is Ck of x, let's say. Now if you look at the product formula, right? What is A of x whole raised to k? That is the number of ways to construct type A structure on k different sets, right? So if you have k different sets and independently you are making the type A structure, for the first one you get A of x, right? The generative function. For the type, the second one, type A again, right? For that set, right? Each block is a set, right? So for each of the blocks, we get the generative function to be the same, A of x, A of x, A of x, etc. So you can apply the product relation, right? The product formula. So you'll get A of x whole raised to k. That is the number of ways to construct this. But then there is one catch, right? So the product formula assumes that we are looking at we are making type one structure on this, then type 2 structure on the second one, type 3 structure on the third one, etc., etc. Right? and there was some order, right? In the first block you are making this, the second block you are making this, third block you are making this, because each of the blocks can have different coordinate, right? So therefore each of the corresponding constants are going to be different. But on the other hand, since we are making the same type of structure, right, it does not matter what is the order, because we are making type A structure on the first set, type A structure on the second set, type A structure on the third set, etc. So therefore we have to divide throughout by the number of possible permutations of this, which is k factorial, because there are k blocks. So therefore I have ax raised to k divided by k factorial. This is the corresponding term that we are looking, right? Because we are overcounting by k factorial. Now, so therefore, what is pk of x? Now, once you have this, dk can be independently made, right? Because we have a k element set, which is the blocks, right? The k blocks form a k element set. So we put a bk type structure there, right? So that is bk times ak raised to ax raised to k divided by k factorial, right? That is the composition generating function for the splitting into k exactly k blocks. So now that is for any fixed k. So we sum over all possible k, right? K is equal to 0 to infinity bk into ax raised to k by k factorial, which is basically substitution of a of x into b, right? Because b is summation bk into x raised to k by k factorial. You just substitute for x with a of x, and I will get b of x. So therefore we get the composition formula. Okay, so an example. The number of ways to partition a set of n people, and then each block of people you are asking to sit around in circles. Okay? And the claim is that is n factorial. So you ask n people, partition them into different non-empty blocks. Then each block you will say, okay, you guys go around, sit in this round table, right? Then you guys go and sit in this table. You guys go and sit in this table, etc. So therefore, the number of ways of doing this is precisely n factorial. That is the claim. So our proof is as follows, right? We use the composition. Our AK is k minus 1 factorial, because that is the number of ways for k people to sit in a circle, right? We already know putting the different permutations in circular permutations is k minus factorial. So therefore a of x is summation n minus 1 factorial into x raised to n by n factorial, which is the exponential generating function, which is summation x raised to n by n, which is log of 1 by 1 minus x. You remember your calculus again. Summation x raised to n by n is log of 1 by 1 minus x, logarithm to the base e. Now, what is b? Well, we are partitioning, and then we are not really doing anything. We are saying that, okay, each of them are sitting around these tables and nothing else, right? So b is the constant sequence, right? bk is 1. So therefore we get b of x is summation x raised to n by n factorial, which is e raised to x. And what is c of x? It is b of a of x, which is e raised to log of 1 by 1 minus x, which is 1 by 1 minus x. So this is summation x raised to n. So therefore coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial in this is basically n factorial. Dividing n, multiplying by n factorial. Okay. So this is the number of ways. Okay, another example. Find the number of ways to separate n people to a number of groups, and let them sit around round tables, and give them either juice or let's say water. Now, So we want to find the number of ways to separate n people into a number of groups, right? And then ask them to sit around tables, right? And give them either juice or water. So now after the partitioning, for each of the groups, we are going to give something, right? So therefore, if we see that bk, right, the number of ways to do this for a k element set is precisely 2 raised to k, right? For each table, you are going to give either this or that. So you have 2 raised to k choices for this. So now, what is b of x? B of x is summation 2 raised to k into x raised to k by k factorial, which is e raised to 2x. And a of x, as we saw in the previous case, is log of 1 by 1 minus x, because it is the circular permutation, right? So we are separating people into exactly k groups, and in that case we have bk is 2 raised to k, because we are serving each table, we are giving juice or water. There is 2 raised to k possible ways to do that, and we can give nothing also, right? So including the empty choices. So we don't give anything at all. No, sorry. Sorry. No, we will give either juice or water, right? Yeah. So there are k possible things. So therefore, 2 raised k possible choices. So which is the e raised to 2k is the exponential generative function. Now the interesting thing is that when we have this 2 raised to k coming, we will expect, right, because we have choices of either this or that involved. We'll expect that we will have some power of 2 in the answer. But what happens is that c of x is e raised to 2 log of 1 by 1 minus x. We are substituting, which is 1 by 1 minus x whole square, the summation n plus 1 x raised to n by the earlier observation that it is the derivative of 1 by 1 minus x. So therefore, we get coefficient of x raised to n by n factorial is n plus 1 factorial, because we have n plus 1 into n factorial here. So therefore, it is not having any power of 2, right? So this is interesting. So well, we have looked at these examples, and now we look at one more application of our generative function, and then we will conclude. But this is nothing to do with the exponential generative function. We are just looking at a very interesting result. So if you remember, we already said that product I equal to 1 to infinity 1 by 1 minus x raised to y is the generative function for the integer partition, right? The number of all partitions of an integer, right? So that sequence was counted by p of n was counted by this series, right? Now this we proved in the class, right? Now let dp be the set of integer partitions whose parts are all distinct. Okay? So I asked in a previous exercise to find out the generating function for dp, right? In fact, I asked you to show that the generating function for dp is also coincide with the generating function for the partitions of an integer into odd parts, right? Instead of distinct parts. So that is aside. I hope that you have found out the generative function for dp. Okay. So anyway, we are going to discuss it. So so for each number, let's say I, right, greater than or equal to 1, we have a choice. Now, when we form a partition mu, right, we have a choice whether to add I to the partition exactly once or not to add, right? Because in each partition, a number can only appear at most once, right? Because we are looking at distinct parts, right? dp is the set of integer partitions whose parts are all distinct. So if I add I, then I cannot add I anymore. So I have a choice either to add I or not. So what is the corresponding generative function? 1 plus x raised to I, right? Because when we are looking at the coefficient of x raised to n, right, we want, the number of ways this has happened is, so we are selecting either I, right, or something else, right? So we are not, so I and something else. So we have to select these distinct parts and add them together to get n, right? That is the partition of mu. We saw this earlier. So since we are choosing either I or nothing, I have 1 plus x raised to. Is that clear? Okay. Now, from the product formula, right? Once I have for a particular I can take the product, right? Product over all I1 to infinity, 1 plus x raised to I. Now this will tell when I take the coefficient of x raised to n, right? How the x raised to n came, right? X raised to n can come from these parts, but each part can contain exactly one of x raised to I and I for only once, right? So therefore, any sum which is going to n is going to be a partition of n, right? Because I is selected, then some j is selected, then some k is selected, I plus j plus k is n, then I get a partition of n, right? They are all distinct. Now, what is this, right? What is the dp of x? dp of x is the is the partitions where all the parts are distinct. So summation over all partitions in dp, x raised to cardinality of mu, right? This is the area of mu, which is the size or the integer which is its partition, right? So for every if the coefficient of x raised to n is precisely this, right? Summation over all that particular mu, which is the partition of n, x raised to n, right? X raised to n how many times comes? That is precisely the coefficient. So therefore, we are summing over all partitions which are distinct. We will get precisely this generative function. So we have the generative function is precisely this. So I have this identity now, right? Summation x summation mu belongs to distinct partitions. X raised to area of mu is precisely the generative function. Now what we do? Okay. So on the other hand, the generative function for the partitions of integer, right? We saw that it is basically product equal 1 to infinity 1 by 1 minus x raised to I, right? We proved this earlier. Okay. So now let us look at the reciprocals of this and then take the product. So the product of reciprocals is product I equal to 1 to infinity 1 minus x raised to I. Right. So we look at the generative function for the partitions of an integer, and then we are looking at the reciprocals and then taking the product again. And what is the corresponding thing, right? Now, if you look at this term, right? So you have product equal to 1 to infinity 1 plus x raised to I. What happens if I change x to minus x? Right? What happens on the left side? Let us look at that. So if I get x to minus x, I will get this precisely the product, right? So now let us look at this in terms of the distinct parts, right? So given a partition, let's say mu is equal to mu1, mu2, etc. Let's say mu s. Let us recall that the length of mu is the number of parts, which is s. Now, what we know is that in this product, summation I equal to 1 to infinity 1 plus x raised to I, we have summation over all mu, x raised to mu. Now, if you look at x raised to mu, x raised to cardinality of mu, right? No, not cardinality, area of mu. How does this come? This comes when mu is a partition of the integer n, where n is the area of mu, right? The x raised to this comes when you have a partition of mu, right? And corresponding to that partition, you get these terms added up, the degrees were added up, right? And then you will get mu, right? They are distinct parts, right? The numbers are distinct, so then I get mu is in dp. Now when x is minus x, what happens here, right? What happens here is that, in mu in dp, right? So the power comes to the, these terms, right, which gets added up. So I will get minus x raised to mu 1 minus x raised to mu 2, etc., minus x raised to mu s, right? They must add up to n. So therefore, what I get is that minus 1 raised to length of the mu, right? Because when I take the product of this, minus x raised to this one, so minus 1 raised to mu 1, right? I mean, minus 1 minus 1 here, minus 1 here, minus 1 here, etc. So minus 1 raised to length of the mu, which is s here, right? Minus 1 raised to length of the mu, x raised to mod mu, right? When I say mod, it is the area of mu. Because from each of the term, right, so in the summation, I am basically taking out the minus, right? So minus 1 I am taking out. So therefore, what I am getting is this is equal to summation overall mu in dp minus 1 raised to length of mu x raised to area of mu. Right? So this is clear. So product 1 minus x raised to I is summation mu in dp minus 1 raised to L of mu x raised to area of mu. Now, let us define an involution, okay, to see in the product if something gets cancelled or not. So given any partition mu, let's say, because it is in distinct parts, and in the partition we are ordering in the decreasing order. So I get mu1 greater than mu2 greater than mu s. So this is in dp, right? Suppose you take such a partition mu. Now let's define A to be the largest index for which mu1, mu2, mu3, etc., mu a are consecutive numbers. Okay, basically mu2 is mu1 minus 1, right? And mu3 is mu2 minus 1, etc., right? Till mu a. So these must be consecutive numbers. And of course, it could be just one because mu1 and mu2 is much smaller than mu1, and I will not get anything else. So A can be 1. So A is basically between 1 and S. That is the only possible choices for A. And then let B be equal to mu S. That is the smallest part of it, right? Because this is decreasing. So mu S is the smallest part, which I call B now. Now my involution is defined as follows. Okay, if A is strictly less than B, then I define I of mu1, mu2, etc., mu S to be mu1 minus 1, mu2 minus 1, etc., mu A minus 1. Then mu A plus 1, mu etc., mu S as it is. Then I add this subtracted. I subtracted A once from here, right? From the first A times I subtract 1. And I add that A at the end as a new part. Mu S plus 1 is equal to A. Right? Now because A is strictly less than B, this is A is less than mu S. Right? So therefore this is decreasing again. Right? Now because because mu a plus 1, for example, right, mu a plus 1 is strictly at least 2 times less than mu a, this will be still decreasing. So this is okay. Now I of mu is obtained by decreasing first. So first from the first A times I decrease 1 and then adding a new part with the size A at the end of mu. Right. So this is what is happening in the Perret diagram, right? So I have this partition, right? Now these are strictly decreasing, right? 1, 1, 1, right? And then is decreasing by more than 1. So I will only consider these first 3 times, right? This is for the A is 3, right? Mu1, mu2, mu3. then B is the smallest part, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So in this case, A is strictly less than B. So therefore, I am going to decrease 1 from each of these and moving all these things and adding it here, right? So therefore, I will get this partition. Okay? This is the file diagram for the new partition. Now, on the other hand, if if A is greater than or equal to B, then I takes mu to so I add 1 to first B parts, right, and remove the B from there. The last time mu S is equal to B, I remove that, and then to the first B times I will add 1. So I will get mu 1 plus 1, mu 2 plus 1, etc. Mu B plus 1, then mu B plus 1, mu B plus 2, top to mu A, and then everything else as it is, till mu S minus 1, and then remove the last part, which is mu S. So I subtract the number of parts by 1. I added that elements, right? And B, I put it distributed to the first B times. So now one can immediately see that what is happening here is precisely this way, going from here to here, right? Something like that, right? Similar to that. So I of mu is obtained by removing the last part of mu and increasing the first B parts by 1. Now clearly I is an involution, because if I look at this, I can see that I of mu, if I take again once more the involution, I of mu is mu itself. Easy to verify. To go through this, what is happening here, we can verify, right? Now this is area preserving, because I am not changing the total, right? Because whatever I subtract, I add as a part, or whatever I add, I delete from that particular part, right? It is sign reversing in as far as the mu is in dp, right? Because if it is dp, what happens is the number of parts changes by 1, right? So therefore, minus 1 raised to the number of parts, the sign changes. So therefore, it is sign reversing involution, except for the fixed points, if there are any. Now the question is that, are there any fixed points? So there are some fixed points, that is the claim, right? So suppose we look at case A is equal to the length of mu. Okay? The number of parts is precisely the so everywhere it is decreasing, okay? Exactly by 1. And then it happens that B is equal to A plus 1, suppose, right? Suppose the length of the parts, number of parts is also equal to A, and B, the last part is equal to the length plus 1. In this case, what happens to I of mu, right? I of mu is not in dp, because last two parts of I of mu are the same, because so B is equal to A plus 1, right? So I subtracted 1 from each of this, then I put it here, so the B, the last part became A, then I am putting A as the part after this, right? So I am putting B minus 1, which is A, and then again another A, right? So it is something like this, where figure, yeah, something like this. Suppose this length was reaching all the way here, right? Instead of this, we are shifting by 1. Then I am putting all the 4 elements here, for example, right? Then I am getting 4, right? Or if it was actually like here, right? Apart from this, then I am actually putting this 3 to this. So then there is a problem, right? So therefore, that is not going to be in dp, right? So we can assume that that is a fixed point; it doesn't change. Similarly, if I can redefine I as it is, like, as this way, and if A is equal to length of mu and B is equal to A, right? If this happens, then there are not enough parts to increment, right? Because when I take out this part and put 1 by 1, 1, 1 each, I don't have enough positions to fill, right? I have to distribute this A to each of, distribute this B to each of these parts, right? That is not possible if the number of parts have suddenly become less. So therefore, in that case, again, the involution is not well defined. So we'll take that as also a fixed point. Okay. So in these cases, no. So what happens is that in these cases, we will see that the terms, the corresponding terms does not get cancelled, right? When you take the power minus 1 raised to, so in this summation, right? In this summation, the involution takes is that, whenever it is sign reversing, those corresponding terms will, there is plus term and the minus term will be there. So they will cancel each other. But in these two cases, they don't cancel each other. So if it happens that length is equal to a and b is equal to a plus 1, or length is equal to a and b is equal to a, in both these cases, the terms does not get cancelled. Otherwise, it will get cancelled. So what are precisely these cases? So let us look at that, right? So what we want is that the length is precisely a, and then b is either a plus 1 or b is a. So this happens precisely when we can verify this. So, if you are starting with an even number, right, in the partition, can either start with an even number or an odd number. If it is starting with an even number, let's say 2k, then the terms will be decreasing, right, 2k minus 1, 2k minus 2, etc. And when it becomes k plus 1, it becomes length exactly k, and then the area is k into 3k plus 1 by 2. We can just add this up. And other case is that when mu is equal to, starting with an odd number, 2k minus 1. So 2k minus 1, 2k minus 2, etc. up to k, again of length k, right? And because length must be equal to a, right? And then what is the area? A k into 3k minus 1 by 2, right? Now these two cases we can verify that, the number of parts, because this is basically the case when the length is equal to b is equal to a, and this is the case when b is equal to a plus 1. Both these cases are troubled, and or they don't get cancelled. Otherwise, everywhere else it gets cancelled. And the only other case where it does not cancel is the empty partition. That will give 1. So therefore, what is the summation now? Summation, the product I is equal to 21 minus y is the summation, right? Where the empty partition is 1, and for all other partitions of n, right? Summation n is equal to 1 to this is equal, right? N is equal to 1 to infinity minus 1 raised to n, and the terms where it does not cancel are x raised to n into 3n minus 1 by 2, x raised to n into 3n plus 1 by 2. These two cases. And what are these? These are the terms like what you see here. These are known as the Euler's pentagonal theorem, because these numbers are called the pentagonal numbers. So these numbers are called pentagonal numbers. In fact, generalized pentagonal numbers. These are the pentagonal numbers, the first ones. Pentagonal numbers are defined like this, and then for n either plus 1 and positive integers or negative integers, you can say. When you consider negative integers, you will get correspondingly this one. And if you just look at the positive integers, this will be the pentagonal number. So therefore, this is the very well-known result of Euler's pentagonal theorem. So we stop with this, and we will continue in the next class.